I feel like most of BookTube was probably reading all like horror and thrillers and slashers for October, and I am just over here doing my own thing. Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my October reading wrap up, and I tried to get a little bit Halloween-y with my black nails, and it is way too hot to be wearing long sleeves here, so we'll see how this goes. Anyway, in October I read 7 books and I can't wait to tell you all about them. So the first book that I read in October was Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. And this book I must have heard about ages ago and just put it on my want to read list. And so when it became available from the library, I just checked it out and started reading it and had no memory whatsoever of what it was about. So I was very surprised when I opened it up and it was narrated by an octopus, but immediately loved that. So this was actually told from 3 different viewpoints. There's 3 different narrators and it alternates between them. My favorite was definitely from the octopus's point of view. And I wish there were more books written from like these weird viewpoints. I just like that perspective. It's so unexpected. I feel like it's such a great way to change your view of the world and just automatically like makes the writer so much more creative. I also really enjoyed one of the other narrators. I'm trying not to like spoil anything for you. So it's told from these 3 different viewpoints and we don't really know how they're connected at the beginning, and it takes a while for those connections to be made, but then you end up seeing these connections and just really rooting for these characters. And I mean, this fictional octopus had me crying by the end of this book, so I really liked it, even though one of the characters really frustrated me. I was like, come on, grow already. But overall, it was such a great book, and yeah, I recommend it. I give it 4 stars. Not one of my favorite books of all time, I don't think, but I really enjoyed it. Alright, I'm already immediately regretting the choice to try to film in long sleeves, but I've made my bed and now I guess I have to lie in it. So the second book that I read in October was called A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and it was by Holly Jackson. So I read all of the Nancy Drew books as a kid and I absolutely loved them. The teenage girl solving all these crimes, solving all these mysteries, and so I was really excited to read this. It's, you know, just like a very modern, kind of like a Nancy Drew. She's, for her senior project in school, decides that she's going to try to look at this unsolved murder mystery in her town, and she somewhat knew the victim when this crime happened a few years before, and it's always bothered her. She didn't think things happened the way that the police said they happened, and so she starts to investigate. And so it's very plot driven, it's very fast moving, fast paced, lots of action. Characters are not super well developed, and it has that definitely YA feel to it, but sometimes you just want like a fun, light read. So I was here for it. I enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars, so again, I reserve 5 stars for like my absolute favorites. It was amazing, but this was just like a really fun read. So yeah, again, recommend. Alright, so the third book that I read in October was At Night All Blood is Black, and it was written by David Diop, and it was written in French, so I read the translated version, which was translated by Anna Mostrovakis. I'm just gonna slaughter everyone's last name today, that's fine. It was a historical fiction, and it takes place during World War I and with trench warfare. So before I read this, I didn't realize, I guess I never thought about it, that during World War One, a lot of Africans were forced basically to fight for the countries they were colonized by. So I had to read this book really slowly and take lots of breaks because it is intense. Essentially, at the beginning of the story, it starts off and his best friend that he refers to as his more than brother dies on the battlefield, and he's injured, and the main character doesn't put him out of his misery. He's asking him, like, just kill me, get this over with, and he just can't do it. And then his friend dies anyway, and that causes him to pretty much descend into madness. And it kind of explores a lot of themes around war. It was really heavy, but it was really well done. The writing style is very unique. This narrative voice is really strong. Like, if I heard a paragraph of this book read out loud to me anywhere, I would know exactly what I was listening to. It's not at all a light read, so just you have to kind of be in the right headspace for it. I gave this one 4 stars. I thought it was really good and really thought-provoking, even if I didn't necessarily actually enjoy reading it as much, because it was just so brutal and heavy at times. Okay, so after that, I really needed something light, and so I read I Remember Nothing and Other Reflections by Nora Ephron. So this was a collection of essays. If you're not sure who Nora Ephron is, she's a pretty famous writer. She wrote a lot of the romance movies that were really big when I was a kid, like You've Got Mail and When Harry Met Sally, Sleepless in Seattle. So it was a humorous novel, but it wasn't like laugh out loud funny to me. It was entertaining, but not like hysterically funny to me. It was interesting the way that she talks about like when emails being invented, like what the cultural, like what everyone thinks is gonna happen because of it, and it's just like, oh yeah, all of these things that we take for granted right now, is, even though I didn't have them as a kid, still it feels like they've always been there. So it's just interesting sometimes to hear her talking about these new technologies and things. I gave it 3 stars. It was fine. It was good. It was not anything groundbreaking or incredible to me, though. Alright, I'm going to try to speed these up because I'm getting so hot out here. Alright, so the next book that I read was called Dumped Actually by Nick Spalding. I watch Loved Actually religiously pretty much every December, so as soon as I heard the title, Dumped Actually, I was like, I have to pick this up. And so this is basically a romantic comedy, and it's written by a man, and it's with a main character who is a man, which I enjoyed because usually we're getting the female perspective during a rom-com. And this was actually funny. Like, I was laughing out loud while I was reading this. He gets himself into the most just like absurd, ridiculous situations, but you see like step by step how he gets himself into them, and it was just enjoyable. It was just fun and light, and what I needed after reading At Night All Blood Is Black. So I gave it 4 stars. Again, like, it was fun, I really enjoyed it. It didn't shake me to my core, you know, something that was gonna make me give it the 5 stars. Then I tried to read The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, and this has been on my TBR like since high school. I remember a girl talking about it in high school and just being like, oh, that sounds really good, I want to read that. and then just forgetting about it for years and years, and then every now and then I'll see it and be like, oh yeah, I want to read that. So it finally came up for me from the library, and I just kept falling asleep while I was reading it, even though I was really enjoying it, and I didn't get to finish, so had to give it back, and hopefully I'm going to be finishing it again soon. I'm gonna have to wait for it to be my turn again. I feel like most of BookTube was probably reading all like horror and thrillers and slashers for October, and I am just over here doing my own thing because the next book that I read was a romance by Ali Hazelwood called Love on the Brain. You probably know this author if you read romance because she wrote The Love Hypothesis, which was one of the biggest books last year, and so this was the follow-up, and I really loved that, so I had to read this. And what I like about her books so much is that her main characters are women in STEM, and even though it's a romance, it's not just the only plot is her will they won't they with this guy. She has a career, she has a brain, she's working on a project for NASA. Her assistant is hilarious. Like, there are more things going on than just this relationship with this guy. That said, her characters are usually a little bit annoying. They're really like over the top, but like this one cries when she sees roadkill, and like, oh come on, you're just like such an annoying person. But she writes really well, and you know, no one picks up a romance because they want to be shocked, or you know, it's just like something light and fun, and you want a happy ending, and it delivers, you know, like, so I enjoyed it. It's a fun read for me. Again, I give it 4 stars. I feel like October was just the 4-star month. Nothing really cracked the 5-star. All right, losing daylight here. I had to turn on the outdoor lights, but we'll go ahead and wrap it up. My final book that I read this month was The House on the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, and this book has been all over BookTube and TikTok for a couple of years now, and I've been reluctant to pick it up because it's fantasy, and I'm not usually a big fantasy person, but basically what it's about is a man who is an inspector of orphanages. He goes to check and make sure that the kids are being taken care of the way that they're supposed to be. And the twist is that these children are not fully human. And so he gets sent to a orphanage that is out on an island in the Cerulean Sea, where they have some of the most dangerous children. And it really explores themes of prejudice, how fear of what we don't know can lead to prejudice. It explores chosen family, nature versus nurture, and overall it was a very heartwarming story. The characters won me over. They're very charming, endearing, and I ended up liking it a lot more than I expected to. I ended up giving it 4 stars. This was the month of 4-star reads. Yeah, so hopefully maybe from that you heard about something that you want to read, or something that perked your interest you want to pick up. And let me know in the comments what was your best read of October. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.